everyone, this is the new Nikon Z5II, and today I'm going to be testing this out in the field for both photo and video. I have a heap of tests and examples to share with you, so let's get into it. The Nikon Z5II is a full-frame 24.5 megapixel mirrorless camera for hybrid users, and please keep in mind that this is a pre-production unit I'm testing. Today, we're going to take a look at what it's capable of, and look, in some areas they didn't hold back with this camera, which pleasantly surprised me, and at the same time, this camera has a lot of the same features as the Z6 III, so we also need to answer the question of whether it's worth getting this or if you should save up a bit more for the Z6 III. As always, this review is not sponsored. Nikon don't ask or tell me to say anything. My aim with these reviews is to always share with you my real experiences, both the good and bad, so let's get into it. This camera features a few different types of subject detection modes, including people, animal, birds, vehicle, and airplane options. Today, we're going to take a look at people autofocus to see how well it performs. I'm using the Nikon 35mm f1.2 at f1.2 for all these shots. I'm testing it out with the tracking sensitivity both at 1, high, to see how fast and quickly the focus shifts, as well as testing it on 7, low, to see how well this camera stays locked onto the subject when someone, aka Dan, is trying to steal focus away from me. I have to say, Nikon have had great locked-on autofocus in previous cameras I've tested, like the Z8, ZF, and Z6 III, and this Z5II is no exception. It's great having a locked-on focus setting like this that you know you can rely on. The only time it lost me was when I turned to the side. Back to high tracking sensitivity so we can see its speed, this camera does a great job at keeping the focus point sticky on the subject. It does mostly a good job at keeping up with a moving subject, although you can see it slipping here and there with some of our faster movements. If I had to compare, the autofocus performance of the Z5II would be similar to or just under the ZF. I'm going to start off on the 35 f1.2. I do like starting off on a high-end lens when testing a camera, just so you can see what the camera is really capable of, but I do also have the 85 1.8 and the 50 1.8 with me as well. I'm going to start off, it's kind of like a close-up here. Our model today is Amul, Lydia is on hair and makeup, and Dan is filming the behind the scenes. I have an entire review video of this 35mm lens, and I'll leave it linked down below if you want to watch. I'm going to be showing you 100% crops of the unedited, straight out of camera JPEG images. This way you can see the true detail and colors you're able to capture with this camera. I also have my edited version to share afterwards as well. Do you want to try a crouching shot here actually? I feel like it'll look nice if you're lower towards the grass. Yes, oh I love that. Looks so luscious. Similarly to our video autofocus test I shared earlier, and I will have more of those for you to look at later in this review, autofocus was super easy to rely on for this portrait session. As you can see in the picture-in-picture, it had no problems, always keeping the focus point on Amul. In terms of the autofocus ratio, so while it can show the focus point is on my subject's eye, it doesn't always mean the photo will be perfectly in focus. I want the sun. But looking at the images I captured, the ratio from this photo shoot was very high, which is impressive considering I was using an open aperture with all the lenses I used. The majority of the images I captured had tack-sharp focus on the eyes. When I do my photo shoots for these reviews, I really let the camera and lens do all the work when it comes to autofocus so we can see what it's realistically capable of, and this Z5II is going to be very reliable. The only time I noticed a much higher ratio of out of focus photos was when I was shooting in very tricky lighting situations, like this really bright backlight where I had a lens flare. I had a few more missed photos there. In the case of the Z5II, the resolution is playing to the autofocus's favor. Since these are not super high-res images, just a standard 24 megapixels, you can't zoom in very far to see all the details, so you can get away with a little bit more autofocus slipping and you won't really notice it in your photos. I feel like it'd be cool if we did some walking kind of shots. So maybe you could walk towards me and I'll walk backwards. Just gonna bring up my shutter speed to make sure I don't get any motion blur in these shots. Yeah, that's so pretty. And that'd be cool actually if we walk together that way. Yeah, that's nice. In terms of shooting speed, according to my tests in lossless compression, the Z5II is capable of capturing around 11 frames per second with a mechanical shutter in continuous high extended. I was able to shoot at the fastest speed before hitting the 200 frames limit set in the menu. After you hit this limit, you can repress the shutter straight away and continue shooting. I got about 65 more images before the buffer started to slow down. However, it only slowed to about 9 frames per second, which is still really fast and impressive. So in a lot of portrait situations and weddings, this will be great. You won't feel limited by the buffer. I've switched over to the 85mm f1.8 now. I feel like this is going to be quite a popular portrait combo, this lens and camera together. Let's go back to those trees there. I'm always like, this would be nice, and I'm just pointing to like another bunch of trees. C15 and C30 is JPEG and electronic shutter only, and allows you to shoot at 15 or 30 FPS. At 30, I was able to shoot 2,141 images before hitting the buffer. This camera also features up to 1 second pre-release, which is a nice addition. However, it's important to note this is only in JPEG, so you would probably only use this if you were in a real pinch. Overall, the files produced by the Z5II are at the high standard you would expect from a professional full-frame camera like this. The images are clear and sharp. Please keep in mind that I am working with the JPEGs for my edits. I did shoot RAW and JPEG on this photo shoot, but RAW support in editing software will come once the camera is released. That's super pretty. Yeah, you can like pace around a little bit if you like. That's nice. The Z5II weighs 700 grams, and even though it's quite small in size, it was still comfortable for me to shoot with out on location, even when using bulkier lenses like the 35 f1.2. This camera has a flip screen only and has quite a large EVF. It has a stills to video mode toggle, which is great if you're a hybrid shooter, a joystick, which is a must for me on a camera as it makes it easier to move around your focus point if you use one compared to having to touch the screen. In terms of ports, there are all the essentials, including mic and headphone jack, USB-C and micro HDMI. It's a really nice touch that Nikon didn't hold this camera back with a single card slot, but instead they've added dual SDXC UHS-2 card slots, which means you can use this camera in professional settings with peace of mind. The Z5II is also weather sealed. So who is this camera for? I think the Z5II is going to be for a few different people, including those who are looking to upgrade from DSLR to mirrorless for the first time. If that's you, I do have a video looking at the pros and cons of DSLR versus mirrorless, which I'll leave linked down below. I think beginners and hobbyists who are looking into buying their first camera altogether could also be looking at the Z5II. And then I want to go back up to where we started just to shoot with the ferns. Could you get like right up close as you feel comfortable? Maybe like in this little... Yes, that's so cool. It almost looks like a green screen behind you.
Oh my god, it does.
For these situations, I do think the Z5II is a solid Nikon option as it offers a good set of features and performance for the price. But that does still leave an important question that I'm sure a lot of people will be asking, which is if you are considering the Z5II, should you just save up a bit more and get the Z6III instead? Because both the Z5II and Z6III actually have quite a similar feature set. First, let's take a look at the similarities. Both cameras are 24.5 megapixels, and this does have an asterisk though. We'll come back to this in just a moment. They have the same autofocus subject detection modes, they have dual card slots, same ISO range, similar shooting speeds with the Z5II at 11 FPS and the Z6III slightly faster at 14 FPS with the mechanical shutter, just to name a few. Yeah, really graceful. And now let's see the differences. Okay, so first, back to that sensor and the asterisks I mentioned. So while they both have the same megapixels, they do not share the same sensor. The Z6III has a partially stacked sensor, which means it reads images faster and you'll experience less rolling shutter. It also has way more video features. While the Z5II has NRAW video, the Z6III has more recording options to choose from. The most impressive one being that you can record in up to 6K 60p in NRAW with no crop. So if you are a video heavy user looking to use it professionally, I would heavily consider the Z6III. If you're after more hobby or personal video use, then you can make use examples of the Z5II's video features. Similarly, where you'll see the performance and quality differences in these two cameras is during high-speed shooting situations such as sports, wildlife, and bird photography and video. This is where the Z6 III could come in handy as well, as it nudges ahead in performance. The Z5II is better to be considered as an entry-level camera with some nice extra features typically seen in higher-end cameras with some limitations. So let's talk about video. The original Z5 was not a strong camera for video, so it's good to see they've made some much-needed updates here. The Z5 has a 1.7 times crop factor in 4K 30p, so that's what we're working with. The Z5II is now able to film in up to 4K 30p full frame 10-bit and 4K 60p 10-bit with a DX crop, also known as APS-C. These video examples you're watching are all in standard picture profile with the contrast lowered by -1. I think video quality looks great. The footage looks sharp and clean, and it was very easy to work with in post. I'm also surprised to see they have included NRAW. I'm not sure it's entirely needed for a camera like this, but I guess it's nice they added it in. Next up, I have a microphone test and afterwards a vlogging and walking example for you to take a look at IBIS. So now it's time for a microphone test. So far you've been listening to my lav mic, and now I'm going to switch over to the internal microphone of the Z5II. So this is with wind noise reduction switched to off. Now I've switched wind noise reduction on, and I'm going to keep talking a little bit. Sometimes these things can change the sound of your voice. Finally, I have frequency response switched to voice only. Now we've got the vacuum, a little bit of a breeze, a car coming by, and an airplane up in the sky as well. So we'll see if any of those sounds come through, or if it's just my voice that's cutting through in this audio. If you've got a flippy screen, I do a vlogging test. I don't make the rules around here. So right now I have vibration reduction set to on. So this is just mechanical IBIS. I'm holding the camera on a Joby and I'm just walking on flat ground so we can take a look at the IBIS. Next up, we have vibration reduction set to sport mode. So I am currently vlogging on the 20mm f1.8. I do really like this as a vlogging lens, and I have an ND filter on as well. So yeah, I'm just walking the exact same path, holding it the same way so you can see what that looks like. There's no crop on this IBIS mode, by the way. Now I have vibration reduction set back to normal, and I have electronic VR switched on. So this mode does crop in, but it does provide a bit more stable looking footage. So at a 20mm, I'm holding the camera exactly the same way as I was before. So you can see it's kind of like just my face, although you can see a fair amount of the background as well. Last but not least, I have vibration reduction set to sport mode and electronic VR on. So this is everything on that you can possibly have. And yet again, I'll just walk in the exact same way. This does crop in the same as the last one because we have electronic VR on. This is what it looks like with my arm fully outstretched. And then we have it. Last but not least, I have an ISO test with the 35mm f1.2 at f1.2. We have noise reduction set to normal, and these are the JPEGs straight out of camera. For me, around 4000, 5000 ISO looks pretty usable. After that, noise reduction starts affecting image quality. The image loses sharpness, which is very noticeable in a close-up portrait like this. That is all I have for today's review of the Nikon Z5II. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the camera and of the photo shoot in the comments. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I make new videos every single week, so I'll see you all next time. Bye.